Coach, could you give us your background going into the season?
You know, the 99 season was a great season. It was an overachieving season, so I was very proud of the guys, and we won league. And that's not something that you ever take lightly because it's so hard. Such a grind, right? First start, and then you get into the preseason, and everyone has their goals. You know, my goal was always, our goal was always to have a winning record going into league, and then to win league, win the classic, and then, you know, make a run in the, most of the time it was a 4A playoffs back then, but really to make a run in the playoffs, right? And so 99, we accomplished a lot of things. We won league, had an incredible comeback win against Jordan, really improbable in the last, I think we were down 21 points with something like 3 minutes left. Maybe Bum remembers, but it was something like that. And we came back and won. But then we lost the classic. It's the only time I lost a classic on the varsity level before Aldo says something. And then, it was horrible. It was horrible. It's kind of a crazy game back and forth. We had a couple turnovers, and man, is that a tough feeling after the game. And I remember I was on the field, and I thought, oh, well, it's not that bad. But, man, as it starts sinking in, as you're taking that bus ride back to school, and then the next days and weeks and stuff, it definitely hurts. But anyway, so then we played Westchester in the first round of the playoffs and really came out and played gutsy because they were ranked number 2, I think, in the city at the time, and they were loaded. I mean, they had a bunch of D1 guys, and we played them really tough and ended up losing by a little bit, but hyper focused for that next season, and we were all in. I mean, it was that whole season, you guys, I was the only coach on campus because Douglas had bounced to Carson, and the kids would run the weight room really by themselves the whole time, which was really, you know, like I say, it wasn't the right thing to do, but I had no choice. But because we were so focused, because we had lost the classic, because it was a senior team, because I had a bunch of Wolfpack kids that were all seniors, I think like 8 of them on that team, maybe 10. They were so focused that I had their absolute commitment. And I know you know how that goes. Once you have that, you know, it's got completely focused. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Again, we had a lot of Wolfpack kids. That really goes a long way. Back then, we didn't have a lot of Wolfpack kids every single year. But between the juniors who played Wolfpack and the seniors that year, we had a lot of contributors that had a lot of football experience. And in Boyle Heights back then, you know, that was kind of the tough thing. You got a lot of great athletes, but they weren't necessarily football savvy. And that's how you really win. You got to have people who play loose on the field. And that's what we had. We had people who played street ball in pads and were really good at it. And that's what gave us an advantage, I think. I hope that all made sense. You know, any head coach, I don't know this, you're as good as your staff. And I was totally lucky, by just luck, that Hector joined, that Arnie joined, that Jaime joined, that Wino joined, Andy. I mean, people who wanted to learn and brought a lot of knowledge both, but always wanted to get better and were great role models. I mean, I was lucky. And the run that we had at Roosevelt was great, but it was because of them. It really was.
You know, Hector Estrada was alumni over at Roosevelt High School, kind of had the opportunity to come on the staff through, it was kind of interesting. Casa knows that through a connection through Andy, was kind of brought on. And it wasn't just one of those deals. Casa kind of screened who he let on his staff. So we talked a minute, then introduced me to Douglas, and kind of things went from there. That particular season, going into the 2000 season, you know, a lot of time goes by, and, you know, I wish I could remember a whole lot more than what I do, but just like the guys were saying, things were made pretty easy in that there was guys being brought up through the program who were fundamentally sound by the time they got to us, and we kind of built that foundation with your team, Will. I mean, I think that when the kids knew the expectation of what we wanted from them, and no disrespect to what was happening before we got there, but things had to change in a way that was going to be beneficial to them as young men. And the job just got easy in that we were all on the same page. And if we disagreed,
absolutely,
there was obvious conversation when we just couldn't come to an agreement or something, but ultimately Casa held us together to understand what the process was at the end. So I think the result being that first year with you, Will, that year 2000 was kind of everything kind of falling in place and all the little kinks were being worked out. And I just think that the demeanor and the success was all due to everybody coming together as one, and Casa leading it. But by the same token, the kids had to buy into the program. What I've believed in, and you guys know this, if the kids don't buy in, it really doesn't matter what you have. And I think we showed that by the standard that was being set by the kids. They knew the expectation that was being presented in front of them, and anything short of that, I think they almost felt internally like that they were not necessarily unsuccessful, but they didn't meet the expectation. And for that, I just say we had a good staff that just kind of was on the same page, and the kids bought into the program. And for that, like I see kids now, or I've seen what like Jody and some of the kids that I've coached in the past, not only in high school ball, but also youth football, what they're doing now really impresses me. I mean, you know, the kids, you know, they speak for themselves and what they do now, but that's pretty much it.
I think Hector brought up some important things. One was that we were all on the same page for the most part, for sure. And I do remember, because I think Juan Maris's brother, right, was going to be the running backs coach. And I remember you guys came up and said, hey, man, we have this guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows the wing tee. We want him. And I talked to you, Hector, and when I found out that you were a captain on your senior year team, and then you were a fireman, I knew that it was just the right thing, the best thing to do. So I was really lucky that you decided to join the staff, because I know they had been asking you for more than a couple of years to join. So I got really lucky that everything fell into place, you know, with you. And the kids did buy in, Hector, you're right. I mean, I couldn't have done the entire off season by myself. Think about that, Aldo, by myself, if the kids didn't have buy-in.
Correct.
It just wouldn't have worked. So I got really lucky that they were as committed as we were. And that's the one thing, you know, during the strike, it goes, hey, so now after Coach Southgate and Roosevelt, so what do you consider yourself? And I said, I'm a Rough Rider. That's absolutely it. Because the things that we did there, it was a struggle. Southgate, man. Now my heart is always at Roosevelt. That's where it is.
Your name, number, position, and a quick insight to the season.
Jose Hernandez, number 4. Beyond the football field, I mean, there's so many things I can say. It's just it was more than just football to me. So it's
almost like we lived a whole life in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, it was so many characters in that team. So many things happened to everybody. If it was not one guy, it was another guy. Outside of the football field, so many things happened. During the football field, there was so many players, so many good athletes on that team. And not just in the football field, but outside.
So many role players.
Yeah. Were just those guys that didn't get to play that much, that were the heart and soul of the team, the guys that always came through. We were a great defensive team. I had lots of fun. The ending, I will never forget. It was one of those life lessons that stuck, you know, to this day. I still remember that last game, I remember very little of the game, but I remember more of what happened before and what happened after. And the whole season, our senior year especially, it was one of those seasons that's, I can't remember more of the actual games, but I remember everything else. Everything else I remember even more clearly than the actual game, because there was much more outside of the game than I can remember. So like that Southgate game, I don't remember any of it. When I seen the video, I was like, oh yeah. But I remember leading up to the game. I remember after the game, I remember feeling like crap because we played like shit. I remember everything else I remember, except for the actual plays. So
Jose was a tremendous two-way player. Let me just say that. A tremendous guy, a tremendous football player, and he had a great junior year as well.
Robert Smith, junior year was number 42, senior 41. I tell everybody I was a running back, but I guess I was a fullback. Technically,
yeah, but in the wing tee, a fullback's a tailback.
Yeah,
Hector.
So that's what I was. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I honestly loved carrying the ball more than actually catching. I wasn't very good at catching the ball at all. So whenever I would go out for those little slants or little wing ones, I was always dreading it. More than just give me the rock, I can do something with it and just progress the ball. So honestly, I love contact. I wanted to go into the hole hoping there was a linebacker in there, or I can just bounce off and just kind of continue running. So I love the position. My son is 13. I'm hoping he can actually play pretty soon too. So, I honestly think the essentials, like Casa was saying in the very beginning, as far as basically having an understanding for the game, goes a long way. So, as a father, I want to make sure that he gets that way he can actually go ahead and kind of carry that on as well. But anyway, talking about me, I enjoyed that year. Like Casa was saying earlier, actually the group, there was something going on every week. Just one thing that lingered throughout the entire season, and I think it was the season before too. It was the Uglies and Skina. I don't know if you guys remember the little crews that we actually had inside of the locker room, that we would actually start raging and start fighting. Always fun, But I
you
think
guys used to have bag fights. That's right.
I think you called us out on that once, Casa. I think
made you guys run.
Yeah, you got mad at us.
You guys run when I found out you guys were using the Kit Kats to kick each other's ass.
Well, sometimes we had really
I had forgotten about that completely until right now.
So that's just one thing that kind of lingered throughout the entire season. That was fun. It was always tough at practice, and instead of kind of winding down, we continued. I'm sure our parents were happy because we got home tired. So I sure did.
Robert Smith, I'll say this, that the one thing I'll say about him, just so I know he's here, right, was that he, I think he averaged something like absurd 14 yards a carry or something like that. And he still had like I think Angel Cruz had the least carries, but he didn't have that many carries at all. But he averaged like 12 or 14 yards a carry. That's like amazing. He broke off long runs.
It was 12 yards a game, yes.
Oh, okay. The man knows. The man knows.
Yes.
Can you believe that? This guy has a couple hundred carries, and he has 12-yard average per carry.
Robert ran with a heavy arm. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but when I was seeing that video again, I was looking at Robert Smith run. He runs like if he had heavy arms, which just push people out of the way with him.
He had a long stride. So once he got going, he never got caught from behind his senior year. I think a junior year, maybe did a Dorsey guy catch you once? I'm not sure. You broke, so. Right?
No, I think he caught me or something happened, because I remember coming out of the game and I was so upset that you put Jody in. You put Jody in, and I was so upset. I wanted to play that damn game.
Like against that run against Fremont was huge.
Yeah.
That really won the game, because we were like, it was a struggle. And when you broke that run, then we threw a throwback to Emmanuel, and we pulled in one more score. But that was the score that really turned that game. It was huge. Coming out of half, I think. It was right after halftime. You know what? Let me tell you something. On quick trap too, one of the things Robert did really well was he was able to wait for the lineman to pass in front of him, and they would step behind the tackle, and he was gone. You have to be patient sometimes on quick trap. It's kind of weird, but he was able to read that. And then Jose, I mean, we ran heavy a lot in that playoff run against, I think, Locke in the fourth quarter. We had an 8-minute drive to really just kill the game, and I think I just ran heavy one side, heavy another, and mix it up that way. So you guys did great. You did great.
This is Roman Gonzalez, aka Bum, as everyone knows me. But I was number 84 my sophomore year. I turned into 75. I became a lineman because Casa came up to me and approached me and asking me to help out on the line because of my size. And it was a move that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I had a blast doing it.
You were a starting left tackle, right, Bum?
Yeah. I remember I was a sophomore year. My first year, I was the second string behind who was the tight end at the time? It was Gus, right?
Was Gus? Yeah.
Gus Herrera.
Because we ran the double tight, and I did play some during my sophomore season, as the tight end on the left side. Right. So, but yeah, no, going into that season, I felt great that we had a good team.
Bum. Why do we call you Bum?
You know,
that was Wino.
It was because of Wino. Here's the story. For those that don't know,
yeah,
I have no idea why, but it was my first year. It was my sophomore year. He was asking all of our names, and I told him Roman. I don't know if it was like I sounded low or anything. I have no idea, but he was like, "Did you say Bum? Did you say your name is Bum?" I was like, no, it's Roman. But it stuck with me ever since.
You were Bum forever.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Hence my username everywhere, Bum0184.
I don't think I ever knew your real name throughout the whole year.
You know,
played outside linebacker, running back, punt return, kickoff return, wherever Casa needed me is kind of where I would show up. So there were a couple times where I was in there, and I think they might have went heavy on one of the plays, and he just said, "Get down on the line and down block," and put my shoulder on someone's hip and kind of did what I could. So it was I probably played almost every position at one point or another, whether it was by accident or not. But it was a great experience. We created these friends. I think was the most important thing, and not only with the coaches as well. And so that's something that I always cherish. And yeah, but as far as the season goes, I actually came over from Wilson. I played for Wilson my freshman year. I didn't play my junior year, and I came back and I transferred over to Roosevelt. And I remember, here's a quick story. I walk into the locker room because I don't think Casa knew who I was, and I walk in and all the guys were lifting. And back then I looked a lot different. I was probably bald head, baggy clothes. It probably fit the bill for 90% of us living there. But I walk into the locker room and I tell him, I'm here. I'd like to play football. I played at Wilson, blah, blah, blah. And he looks at me and he says, "Are you a cholo?"
Did I?
Yeah, and he says, we don't want any problems here. He's like, "You're not gonna cause any problems." I said, "No, I'm just here to play football." So, and that was kind of the start of our relationship. And then he told me, hold on a second. He turns around and starts screaming at the team. The goosebumps started to come up behind my neck, and I knew I was in the right place. So that was my intro to the football team.
Let me say something about this. Okay, I don't remember that, Norman, but that's funny. But back then, like I said, the 90s, it was hot on the block. So I had to make sure the problem wasn't coming. But what I remember about you was after your junior year, you were talking about going back to Wilson, and I was like, no, Norman, you can't. So I was really happy when you chose to stay.
Yeah, I'm glad I did. It turned out to be a great experience, you know.
I got something to add to that story, Norman.
Uh-oh.
I remember when you started, Caesar, Caesar number 3. I remember Caesar comes to me. He's like, "Hey, we got a new linebacker. He's gonna take your spot." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So we didn't see Norman until we actually got on the field, and then I see him running laps, right? And Norman, you know, he was the most cut guy, bulky cut guy that I've seen in high school, our age, and I'm comparing myself to him, and he's running, and he's all big and cut. I'm like, "Oh shit." And then Caesar was like, "I'm just kidding, man. He's a running back." I'm like, "Oh," because we didn't know what you were gonna be doing. So
That's kind of cool, like listening to other people's perspective, because we never,
it is.
we never experienced the other side of that, and there's stuff that we all forget along the way that others might remember. But yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, because when you showed up out of nowhere, and people were like, "Who is that guy? What is he gonna do here?"
Yeah.
I think what you told me, Norman, was that you had seen the Classic on TV. Isn't that right? And that's why you decided to come? Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, back then there were no high school games on TV. In fact, my college roommate who's from Hawaii, in fact, he's back on the islands now. Hector, he's a fireman too in Hawaii, just retired. He told me that he saw a game when he heard I was coaching at Roosevelt. He goes, "Oh yeah, I saw the Classic on TV one time," because he was just turning channels. He saw a high school game and said, "These aren't on now. They're on all the time, of course, but back then it was a special game."
But it's great seeing you all that are here.
Where are you at, Norman?
Virginia. So it is right now. It's 10:20 p.m. and my kids, especially my 6-year-old, who's been obsessed with the highlight video since probably he was 3 years old. He probably watches it at least 3 times a day.
Wow.
And so yeah, he loves it. And I told him that there were going to be some people on here that were on the video, and he was pretty happy.
They did a good job. They did a good job on that highlight video. I love that.
That was Hector and Eddie.
Yeah, it's a great video.
Arnie Carrillo coached with Casagran 98 to 2003. Was coaching with Douglas, Jaime, Leja before at Garfield with Wino. Obviously, I played with all of them. So when Casagran got the job and offered it to, when he was trying to put a staff together, luckily, I was involved in that process or startup staff, and I was a young kid too. I was 23 when I first started coaching with Casa, so not too far removed from you guys, as far as age group, right? But there's a lot of little stuff that I still remember. Norman being one of them. That story about Wilson, and it is true that thank God he watched that Classic. Thank God for Channel 6 and showing those games, and at least pushed them our way. A lot of good memories, a lot of learning, a lot of like I said, I was young at the time too, but I've always been a student of the game, love coaching. I've always coached in some kind of facet, now with my daughters playing and stuff, and my daughter being close to where Norman lives right now. She's maybe less than 20 minutes from you, Norman.
Oh,
in Newport News,
probably within, I don't know, 10 minutes. It's not very far.
Yeah, so that little girl that used to hang around after the games, she's out there in Virginia near Norman doing our thing. But going back to this 2000 class, had nothing but studs on my end of. It was an easy job for me as being an outside linebacker coach, which I learned on the fly because I was a defensive lineman. I was a long snapper at Garfield, so in playing with Wino, since he was covering the D line, I was able to switch over and learn the outside linebacker position from Casagran and the old Washington defense. That's what we were running back with you guys. with that double crash and all that nuances that we had with that defense was from Scott Pelluer. Was that his name, Casa? Scott Pelluer from Washington. I think we
Yeah, he was one of them, right? Yeah.
yeah. So
We met with him a few times up in San Francisco.
Yeah. So a lot of good times, man. A lot of good memories. Glad to see you guys all doing something with yourselves, man. And, you don't think life is gonna pass by, but it really does, man. It's been 20 years now, and it's crazy, man. It's crazy how time flies, and sometimes we get stuck in our memories and seeing insights or hearing stories from a different angle. What it meant to other people. That's pretty cool to hear. Will, props to what you're doing here, man. Putting the community, ex-players, former players, former students, former athletes into something like this. It's pretty cool, man. Kudos.
Thank you. Could you talk about how like the season went along, and when did you guys start realizing, or did you know that you guys were championship caliber from the get-go?
Yeah, no, we knew. We played Carson game 1, and we ended up losing. I don't remember the score. It was like 30-14 or something like that, maybe 37. But it was a close game. It was actually pretty close, and then they scored a couple touchdowns in the fourth to pull away. So we knew we were pretty good because that Carson team went to the Division I finals and actually had beaten Banning during the regular season and then ended up losing, getting upset in the finals. So we knew we were pretty good. And then game 2 was Marshall, and that might have been Marshall's greatest team ever, at least in the modern era, going back in the 50s, who knows, and stuff, or 60s, 70s. But they were loaded. I mean, they were really good. And I remember talking to Mondo Gonzalez, a Franklin legendary coach, before the season, I think at a passing league. And I said, well, we got Marshall. They're not going to be too tough, right? Because I set that game up as a recovery game from Carson, just so we wouldn't get too beat up as in the preseason type of thing. And he goes, oh, no, they're loaded. They're going to be great. And I was like, oh, no. And we ended up playing them in a just brutal, just smash mouth type game, and we won. I want to say by a point or something like that, or 2 points. But it was back and forth, and we had like a goal line stand at the end and scored. It was great. So I think it was after that Marshall game when I really knew, like, oh, we're pretty good, because that was a good team we just beat. And then we beat Franklin in the preseason. So I had a pretty good idea that we were going to be good going into league. But we got better and better as the season went on. That's the thing too. And I'll say this, one thing that almost all my Roosevelt teams did, they got better every game. And so as the season went on, we got more and more confident that we knew that we were in it for the long haul.
Yeah.